A sudden chill has gripped Japan-China relations, sending shockwaves through diplomatic circles and everyday life alike. The once steady, if sometimes uneasy rhythm of engagement between these two Asian powerhouses has been abruptly interrupted, leaving both governments and citizens scrambling to adjust to a new, uncertain reality. This diplomatic freeze has plunged two of Asia's giants into their most severe crisis in years, with tensions rising to levels not seen in decades. The world is watching as the relationship between Japan and China, so crucial to regional stability, teeters on the edge. What was once a complex partnership, built on robust trade, cultural exchange, and a shared interest in economic growth, but always shadowed by historical grievances, has unraveled into open confrontation. Recent events have exposed the fragility of their ties, as old wounds resurface and new disputes emerge. Heated rhetoric has quickly led to real-world consequences. Flights between the two countries have been cancelled, Japanese businesses in China face boycotts and closures, and ordinary citizens in both nations are left anxious, glued to their televisions for updates. The sense of uncertainty is palpable, affecting everything from tourism to daily commerce. The dispute over the Senkaku, known as the Diaoyu Islands in China, has long simmered beneath the surface, occasionally flaring up but never fully resolved. Now, the latest escalation centers on Taiwan, a red line for Beijing and a flashpoint that has drawn in not just Japan and China, but the attention of the entire world. Military maneuvers and strong statements have only heightened the sense of crisis. Both governments have hardened their positions, issuing stern warnings and refusing to back down. Diplomatic language has given way to ultimatums, leaving little room for compromise. The standoff has cast a long shadow over the region's stability, with neighboring countries and global powers growing increasingly concerned. The world watches nervously, as instability between the world's second and fourth largest economies threatens global markets. Investors are on edge, stock prices in Tokyo and Shanghai have tumbled, and economic forecasts are being revised downward. The ripple effects of this diplomatic freeze are being felt far beyond Asia, with global supply chains and international trade at risk. High-level talks have stalled, with Japan refusing to retract its statements and China ramping up pressure through both diplomatic and economic means. Negotiation tables sit empty, and the prospect of a breakthrough seems distant. Each side waits for the other to blink, but neither appears willing to make the first move. For now, the future of Japan-China relations is fraught with risk and uncertainty. Millions of people on both sides are left hoping for a return to dialogue, anxious for signs of de-escalation and a path back to stability. The world holds its breath, waiting to see what comes next in this high-stakes diplomatic standoff. The crisis ignited on November 7th, sending shockwaves through the region and capturing the world's attention almost instantly. Newsrooms buzzed with urgency as the story broke, and analysts scrambled to interpret the implications of what was unfolding. On that day, Japan's Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, stepped before the press and made a bold, unprecedented statement regarding Taiwan, a move that would reverberate far beyond Japan's borders. She declared that any Chinese attack or blockade of Taiwan would be considered a survival-threatening situation for Japan itself. This was not just diplomatic rhetoric, it was a direct invocation of Japan's right to collective self-defense, a principle enshrined in its constitution but rarely spoken of so openly. This marked a sharp and unmistakable break from decades of strategic ambiguity. For years, Japan had carefully avoided taking sides too openly, but now Tokyo was signaling to the world that it might intervene militarily if Taiwan were attacked. The message was clear. Japan was prepared to act, not just watch from the sidelines. In Beijing, the reaction was swift and severe. Chinese officials condemned Takaichi's remarks as a direct provocation and an unacceptable interference in China's internal affairs. The fragile political understanding that had kept tensions in check for years was suddenly shattered, replaced by a new sense of urgency and confrontation. Takaichi's stance reflects Japan's growing belief that its own security is inseparable from Taiwan's fate. The vital sea lanes that connect Japan to the world pass dangerously close to Taiwan, making any conflict there a direct threat to Japan's economy and national security. The proximity of the two islands means that instability in Taiwan could quickly spill over into Japanese territory. While Takaichi's words found support among many Japanese citizens who saw her as standing up for national interests, they also thrust Japan into the center of a dangerous and unpredictable regional flashpoint. The world was now watching closely, aware that a single spark could ignite a much larger fire in East Asia. China's response was immediate and fierce. The foreign ministry condemned Japan, summoned its ambassador, and demanded a retraction, warning of severe consequences. On social media, a Chinese diplomat posted a thinly veiled threat against Prime Minister Takaichi, sparking outrage in Tokyo and a formal protest. This incident revealed the raw emotions fueling the dispute, as official anger spilled into the public sphere. Beijing's multi-pronged response, diplomatic protests, public denunciations, and online messaging, aims to isolate Japan and rally domestic support. By refusing talks without a retraction, China has frozen high-level dialogue, creating a standoff where neither side can easily back down. The diplomatic freeze is now total, with both governments locked in a battle of wills. The crisis quickly spilled over into daily life, as both countries issued travel warnings. Japan's embassy in China urged its citizens to avoid crowds and stay alert, citing rising anti-Japanese sentiment. China responded with strong advisories against travel to Japan, and even warned students to reconsider studying there. These warnings are more than suggestions. They're powerful signals of official distrust and a blow to tourism and cultural exchange. Tourism, a key economic link, is now weaponized, with China's advisories inflicting direct pain on Japan's economy. The result? An invisible wall between the two nations, as the free movement of people is replaced by mutual suspicion. The diplomatic rift is now felt in airports, classrooms, and family homes. The fallout from the ongoing tensions is deeply personal. Tourists are forced to cancel dream trips they've planned for months, sometimes even years, watching their excitement turn to disappointment as flights are grounded and borders tighten. Students who once looked forward to new academic adventures now face dashed hopes and uncertain futures, while families are separated by circumstances beyond their control, left to comfort each other in airport terminals. Hundreds of thousands of Chinese travelers have been forced to scrap their plans to visit Japan, canceling long-awaited vacations and business trips. Many are losing hard-earned deposits and missing out on cherished experiences they had hoped to share with loved ones. Chinese students once eager to study in Japan and immerse themselves in a new culture now find themselves packing up their dreams, unsure if they'll ever get the chance to return. Government warnings and sudden policy changes have left them facing agonizing choices, as their academic and personal futures hang in the balance. Binational families, with loved ones on both sides of the border, are torn apart, unable to reunite, relying on video calls and messages to stay connected. Cancelled flights and official discouragement have made even the simplest family reunion feel impossible, deepening the sense of loss and isolation. These disruptions don't just affect travel plans, they sever vital people-to-people ties, leaving once bustling tourist attractions eerily empty and local economies struggling. The loss of cultural exchanges and friendships undermines long-term understanding and trust between the two societies, making reconciliation even harder. The human cost is profound. Behind every headline are ordinary people whose lives have been upended. As political posturing dominates the news, it's everyday citizens who bear the brunt, coping with anxiety, uncertainty, and heartbreak. Their disrupted lives serve as a stark reminder that international disputes are never just about governments or policies. They reach into the homes and hearts of real people. In this standoff, it's the citizens, tourists, students, and families who ultimately pay the highest price, carrying the burden of decisions made far above their heads. The economic shockwaves are immediate and severe. Japan's tourism sector reels as 500,000 Chinese bookings vanish, costing billions in lost revenue. Airlines slash routes and offer refunds, while airports display rows of cancelled flights, a stark sign of the crisis. The chill extends to culture. Chinese distributors have pulled major Japanese films, cutting off a lucrative market and cultural bridge. State media frames these moves as prudent, reflecting souring public sentiment. Japanese business leaders, alarmed by the fallout, urge their government to seek dialogue and stability. Small businesses, especially, are vulnerable as cross-border trade and tourism dry up. The message is clear. Political disputes have real immediate costs for livelihoods and cultural exchange. In this tense climate, personal safety is paramount for citizens abroad. Japanese in China are urged to keep a low profile, avoid crowds, speak quietly, and blend in to avoid attention. Situational awareness is key. Steer clear of protests, leave tense areas, and travel in groups. Chinese in Japan are advised to avoid political discussions and stay informed, even as anti-Chinese sentiment remains limited. Both embassies stress the importance of communication, keeping family updated and carrying emergency contacts. Simple precautions can make a difference, helping citizens navigate uncertainty until tensions ease. The advice is practical, not alarmist. Stay alert, stay connected, and avoid unnecessary risks. In times of crisis, vigilance is the best defense. The crisis isn't just diplomatic, it's playing out at sea. Chinese Coast Guard ships entered waters near the disputed Senkaku Diaoyu Islands, prompting a rapid Japanese response. This familiar cat-and-mouse game is now more dangerous, as each side's maneuvers are loaded with new significance. The U.S., bound by treaty to defend Japan, has reaffirmed its commitment, adding a global dimension to the standoff. Armed vessels from 3 major powers now operate in close proximity, raising the risk of miscalculation. The military posturing underscores what's at stake. Unresolved disputes, nationalist fervor, and a breakdown in communication can quickly spiral. The need for de-escalation has never been more urgent. In moments of crisis, safety and communication are vital. Governments must protect citizens and prevent nationalist anger from spilling into violence. Dialogue, public or private, is the only way forward. When major powers stop talking, the risks multiply. De-escalation requires listening, compromise, and a willingness to find off-ramps. For ordinary people, prudence and respect are essential. Avoid provocation, follow safety advice, and focus on shared humanity. The current standoff is a test of leadership. The hope is that both sides will choose dialogue over confrontation. Stability in East Asia and the world depends on wise management and a return to trust.